I think this name is taken, but we'll try. Hmm.
Bound to the uh. You get that first?
Okay. Uh,
What tool required?
fuck, wait, do we want to... I'm like thinking. Do I want to do mage? Mm, think I do. I want to watch this one video. I don't remember it.
Etc. You do have Dispersion, which can be... What is going on, guys? This is Earpugs, and in this video I'm going to be doing a class picking guide for Wrath of the Lich King Arena. I will be talking about the playstyles of each class along with how it operates, as well as why you would want to play a class and why you wouldn't. I will also mention what to do in order to make the class shine. So without further ado, let's get started. Warriors are up first, and we will be starting out with the Arms specialization. This is a class that has extremely high damage paired with very good mobility and of course the infamous Mortal Strike. The meat and potatoes of this class is abusing your high mobility and damage to apply pressure onto a target while never letting that pressure go, eventually landing a kill. An example of this would be intercepting their healer on their cast and then charging back to the kill target when your team has no more interrupts for that healer. This class is extremely good at demolishing any target it connects to while also having some situational CC like Intimidating Shout, Disarm, Intercept, Piercing Howl, etc. The warrior excels when they are free to do as much damage as they wish, keeping full uptime on their kill target. On the flip side, if a warrior is being focused as the kill target and has to play defensive, their damage falls off immensely, making them not very useful. Why you would want to play the warrior is because you enjoy having high mobility and instant damage while also playing in melee. You will also need to be swapping stances and have a lot of macros in order to be effective, like swapping between your two-hander and shield frequently to reflect spells and mitigate incoming damage. Why you wouldn't want to play a warrior is because you don't enjoy having to chase targets for kills, along with having a ton of keybinds and different macros to swap stances and weapons, plus having two different kicks where one requires a shield and the other doesn't, along with having 3 separate hotbars with battle stance, defensive stance, and berserker stance.
Yeah, that all sounds annoying.
Playing against a good warrior is an absolute nightmare because they will be constantly off-kicking the healers and DPS to prevent any incoming heals and damage, along with constantly charging people and great reflex, plus a ton of damage and pressure on whoever they are hitting. When played correctly, the Arms Warrior is an absolute terror. The class is pretty easy to pick up and learn, however, playing it at a very high level is extremely difficult. For anyone considering playing the Protection Warrior, they play very similarly to Arms, except you don't actually switch stances that much since you have a sword and shield out all the time, and most of your abilities can be used in defensive stance. Your Spell Reflect actually goes onto your teammates as well as yourself, and you obviously are much tankier than Arms. You do have some stuns and silences giving you decent CC and burst, however your consistent damage is pretty low when compared to Arms and you also lack Mortal Strike. It is definitely a niche spec for very specific comps, but if played correctly, can do well. Up next is the Warlock. Now this class has 2 main PvP specs, which are Affliction and Destruction. They both have pretty different playstyles, so let's start out with Affliction. This specialization has a ton of control while also having a lot of dot damage. The Affliction Warlock is truly a one-of-a-kind playstyle, seeing as you are almost never focusing on a single target. Your main objective is to get your Unstable Affliction and Corruption up on as many targets as possible with the proper curses, while also focusing on stopping the enemy team's momentum with things like Curse of Tongues, Curse of Exhaustion, Fear, Death Coil, etc. You also need to be extremely mindful of your pet, seeing as keeping it alive is incredibly important. Your pet not only dispels magic off of yourself and teammates, but can also purge and even lock the enemy team. Not to mention the fact that it also reduces the damage you take by 20% as well. Why you would want to play an Affliction Warlock would be because you enjoy multitasking and having a lot of control to offer while also rotting people to death with your dots. Since you have life tap, you also never run out of mana. Why you wouldn't want to play an Affliction Warlock is because they are pretty squishy and the only real defensive they have is their portal, which if placed or used incorrectly will assure your death. You also wouldn't enjoy this spec if you don't like having to focus on multiple things at once. When you are fighting a good Affliction Warlock, your entire team will be dying, no one can cast, and anytime you go to generate pressure, your DPS will not only be sitting in fears, but also have that fear be covered with Unstable Affliction, so that way when your healer tries to dispel it so you can go back offensive, your healer takes damage and then dies to the Unstable Affliction that's on them. When played correctly, Affliction Warlocks are a very scary sight to see. Up next is Destruction or Destro. The biggest difference between this spec and Affliction is that Affliction is all about general pressure, and Destruction is exclusively about targeted pressure. The entire goal of a Destruction Warlock is to get your Immolate up on a target and then get into a window where you are able to free cast for a few seconds, landing your Chaos Bolt into Incinerates plus your Conflag. You will be using the Succubus in most games because you absolutely need an extra CC to help get people off of you, since you are so reliant on casting Chaos Bolt and Incinerate to be effective. When you are able to free cast, it is almost guaranteed that something dies. Why you would want to play a Destruction Warlock is because you enjoy having an extremely high amount of burst damage and a lot of control with your Succubus, Shadow Fury, and Fear. If you like casting big damage into people after setting up a window, then Destro might be for you. Why you wouldn't want to play a Destruction Warlock is because you are going to be the kill target in most games, since the other team knows that they can't let you free cast. You will also be under a lot of pressure, since people will almost always be trying to kill you, so if you don't like being the kill target, Destro might not be for you. When fighting a good Destruction Warlock, you are always in a fear, a stun, or a seduction, and you're never able to catch up on the pressure. They will be constantly chaining CCs across your entire team while absolutely nuking whoever they are hitting. We are now moving on to a class who receives a ton of changes, which is the Shaman. All three specs of Shaman are viable, so let's go ahead and start out with a very infamous one in Wrath, which is the Elemental. As an Elisham, you will be constantly looking for a good spot to knock people off with your Thunderstorm, while also setting yourself up to be able to cast tons of damage into any target that is in your line of sight. You also need to be very aware of your positioning as this class, since you have no real damage mitigation cooldowns. Before you start casting into a target, it is very important to make sure that you purge them clean so that your spells are doing maximum damage. You will also be looking to use Hex off cooldown, since it is an extremely powerful CC, because it is actually a curse and not a magic effect. You will also need to be micromanaging your totems to make sure your team isn't getting feared, along with grounding incoming damage or CC, and of course many other totems. Wind Shear is an extremely powerful cast breaker that you should be looking to use off cooldown, since it will put your team substantially ahead if used correctly. Why you would want to play an Elemental Shaman is because you enjoy being very mobile with Ghost Wolf and also having Earthgrab Totem to root people off of you, on top of having a truckload of damage if you were able to free cast into a target with Lava Burst and Chain Lightning, not to mention Wind Shear, totems, and off heals. Why you wouldn't want to play an Elemental Shaman is because they are going to be focused a lot as the kill target, since they know if you're casting into somebody, that person's pretty much dead. On top of that, you have very limited defensive cooldowns to help save you, so if you are caught out of position and you don't have your Thunderstorm and Earth Grab, your death is pretty much guaranteed. When fighting a good Ellie Shaman, it feels like you can't cast a single spell thanks to Wind Shear and Grounding Totem, plus getting purged on all of your buffs, allowing you to be deleted once the Ellie gets away and is able to cast into you. A good Ellie will never drop the pressure while absolutely demolishing whichever target comes in their line of sight, making them a very big threat. Moving on to the Enhancement Shaman, this spec has absolutely never-ending pressure once they connect to a target thanks to Purge, Wind Shear, Bloodlust, and Spirit Wolves. They also have Shamanistic Rage, reducing their damage taken by 30% on a 1-minute cooldown, allowing them to play very aggressively. Their Earthbind Totem's Pulses removes any slows off of them, plus their Wolves giving them a root rate and speed boost on top of healing them. Once an Enhancement Shaman connects to a target, it is only a matter of time until that target is dead if they don't get any help. You also get Maelstrom Weapon, allowing you to instantly cast Hex, off heals, and damage. They of course still have their totems to assist their team. Why you would want to play an Enhancement Shaman is because you like sticking to a target while beating it to death, plus also having some off heals and CC with Hex, Wind Shear, Grounding Totem, and a lot of utility. Why you wouldn't want to play an Enhancement Shaman is because they don't have any real gap closer after their wolves die, and it's very often they're getting rooted and kited. They also don't give an MS effect like a warrior, hunter, or rogue. When fighting a good Enhancement Shaman, you cannot cast an ability from the very start and the pressure is absolutely immense. You are slowed all while being purged and eaten alive by their wolves. Beast Cleave and Turbo Cleave are extremely scary comps to fight for these reasons. Moving on to the last Shaman spec, which is Restoration. You are the most aggressive healer in the game thanks to Purge, Wind Shear, Hex, and Bloodlust. Earth Shield and Riptide are your go-to heals that you will be utilizing constantly to keep your team alive, in addition to your Riptide giving you tidal waves for stronger heals. Positioning is extremely important for the Resto Shaman, seeing as they don't have any kind of major damage mitigation cooldown like Pain Suppression or Divine Shield. Resto Shamans rely on having big offensive pressure and a team that can heal them if needed, since they need to cast a heal in most scenarios. Why you would want to play a Resto Shaman is because they are very mobile with Ghost Wolf, have a ton of utility for their team with their totems, Wind Shear, and Bloodlust. You also like to play very aggressively and help purge the kill target while Wind Shearing and grounding incoming spells and damage. Why you wouldn't want to play a Resto Shaman is because they are the easiest healer in the game for a melee cleave to kill, along with not having a magical dispel for your team and relying on casting to do most of your healing. A good Resto Shaman will never let the pressure drop and be constantly shearing and grounding any incoming abilities, as well as positioning themselves in a way where they are not a good choice to try to kill, while also utilizing Lust and Hex. Resto Shamans are a class where it is very obvious if the player is good because you won't be able to land any spells and you will be under immense pressure from square one. Up next is a very famous class for PvP. We are of course talking about the Rogue. While technically you can play all 3 specs of this class depending on the season and what comp you're running, I will be covering the most common spec that 90% of the rogues are going to be playing, which is Subtlety. The way that rogues operate has been completely overhauled because you can no longer duel any class and chase a target down to kill it with raw damage, seeing as your sustained damage is now much lower than it was in TBC. On the flip side, rogues' burst damage has been buffed tremendously. As a Subtlety rogue, you will always be looking to set up a kill window with your Shadow Dance in 90% of situations, since your burst in Shadow Dance is almost unhealable. Looking for windows where you can go back into stealth to potentially sap someone who drops combat, or even to get a good opener on someone who is out of position is absolutely essential. This makes them pair even better with mages, allowing them to reset their target over and over and over until they finally run the enemy out of cooldowns. Why you would want to play a Subtlety rogue is because they have an extremely high skill ceiling with a massive toolkit, allowing you to completely dictate the pace of the game when played correctly. Why you wouldn't want to play a rogue is because they have a lot of different abilities to manage and use efficiently. They are also an extremely unforgiving class, seeing as if you waste your cooldowns and get caught out of position, your death is guaranteed. A good rogue will make the game feel impossible to play from start to finish by opening with immense pressure and locking down the right targets at the right times, completely keeping the momentum in the rogue's favor. You will always be gouged at the worst times and sitting in stuns when you need to be helping your team. The rogue is an extremely scary class when played correctly. We are now moving on to a very strong class in Wrath of the Lich King, which is the Priest. They only have 2 viable specs, which are Discipline and Shadow for Arena, so we are going to be starting off with the Discipline Priest. As a Disc Priest, you rely almost exclusively on your instant cast spells along with penance to keep your team alive as well as generating pressure. You need to be purging the kill target with Dispel Magic in almost all scenarios because it puts that kill target under immense pressure, since any hot or buff like Sacred Shield, Rejuvenation, Riptide, etc. comes off instantly the second the healer applies it, essentially making that healer's global useless. You will also be dispelling any kind of buffs that the enemy actually wants, for example Predator Swiftness from a Feral, or a damage proc from a caster, etc. The most damage and pressure you could ever do or put out is going to come from your Dispel Magic, so make sure you are utilizing this. You also need to ensure that when you're healing your team, they always have 3 stacks of Grace to ensure you have the maximum amount of healing done to them. A single bolt from Penance will refresh the Grace stacks, so make sure that you are using Penance off cooldown because it is your biggest source of healing. You of course also have Psyche Stream, so try to use that when available. Even using it on the enemy DPS is way better than never using it at all. Why you would want to play a Disc Priest is because they have an insanely high amount of natural haste from Borrowed Time, as well as their gear and power infusion, making them the fastest casting healer in Wrath, plus them also having a great toolkit for some solid heals and huge pressure when played correctly. Why you wouldn't want to play a Disc Priest is because they are the only healer in the game without some form of freedom or shapeshift to help themselves get around the arena. On top of that, if you start to fall behind and you have a melee cleave on you or your teammates, it is very, very difficult to recover as a Disc Priest. You must either peel the enemy or counter pressure because there is no way for you to heal through that kind of damage as a Disc Priest. A good priest will never let their team fall behind while being incredibly aggressive with their dispels and using their cooldowns at perfect times to ensure the enemy never gets a chance to breathe or generate any counter pressure. They will perfectly rotate their heals into dispels without missing a single global, as well as landing mind controls out of nowhere and absolutely dominate the arena. Moving on to the other PvP specialization, which is Shadow. This spec revolves around constant pressure with Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain, plus a huge amount of burst damage when they cast into a target. As a Shadow Priest, you need to be very aware of your positioning, seeing as you have 0 abilities that will get you away from the enemy quickly, like Blink or Ghost Wolf, etc. You do have Dispersion, which can be used in CC and does give a freedom effect. However, you need to be extremely careful using this ability, as in most scenarios, after you use Dispersion, you are now the primary kill target. Utilizing your positioning and damage is absolutely imperative to playing a Shadow Priest correctly, in tandem with your Fears, Silence, and Psychic Horror. Why you would want to play a Shadow Priest is because they are an extremely high burst damage caster with some of the best off heals in the game, plus a very unique toolkit. Why you wouldn't want to play a Shadow Priest is because it is an extremely unforgiving spec, seeing as your only major defensive is Dispersion, and after that, if your positioning is not perfect, then your death is highly likely. A good Shadow Priest will be rotting the enemy team to death from square one, while also putting in huge spikes of damage onto whichever target is in their line of sight, while also pushing in and getting triple fears into a Psychic Horror or Silence to finish off the DPS. Good Shadow Priests are very rare, but when you see one, it is extremely obvious how strong the spec can be. Up next is an extremely iconic class for Wrath of the Lich King. We are of course talking about the Paladin. While you can play Protection in niche arena comps, I will not be covering it, seeing as it is the worst out of all 4 specs. That means we will be covering the other 3, which are Retribution, Preg, and Holy. Starting off with Retribution, this spec has a very consistent damage output, as well as providing a ton of utility for their team. As a ret, you have off heals, tons of dispels, huge burst damage, multiple damage mitigation cooldowns for not only yourself but also your team, and Blessing of Freedom now actually removes yourself or teammates out of stuns, completely negating them when used. Why you would want to play a ret is because they have huge burst damage as well as a very large toolkit the same.
All right, I'm back. Whew.
What is it?
What is it?
Victory for Sylvanus.
God, I love mage. Look at this dam. Big dam. Oh my god, big dam. Big dam. Big dam.
Not enough mana. I need more mana.
Oh, baby. Crit for daddy. Ooh, big hit. Oof.
Not enough mana.
I want to look something up. God, Mage feels so fucking good, man. It just feels so good. Actually, yeah. Subcreation. 2v2. 3v3. Oof. Arena mate. Well, Fire Mage is there. Demo's doing better, but fuck Demo.
Too far away. I'm out of range.
Why do I keep trying to run away from this class? This class is so good. It's just so fucking good.
Save themselves and their teammates from death, along with being able to dispel every single dispellable CC in the game except for curses. Why you wouldn't want to play a Ret is because they have no real gap closer, and you will constantly be running at your target with no abilities like Charge, Blink, or Shadow Step. This makes you very prone to getting kited and killed once you are in the open versus Spell Cleaves or Hunter teams. A good Ret will always be positioning themselves perfectly while never allowing you to land any CCs on their teammates and using their defensive cooldowns exactly when you are looking to land a kill, keeping their team much more ahead. The moment you get greedy and overextend, you find yourself in a Hodge with no trinket and get deleted by a good Ret pally. We are now moving on to arguably the best healer in all of Wrath of the Lich King. We are of course talking about the infamous Holy Paladin. As an H-Pala, you are the most defensive healer in the game with a massive arsenal of tools to keep yourself and your team alive. You will usually be towards the back of the arena spamming heals into your team, making sure they can stay offensive. You have the highest amount of raw healing out of all 4 healers by a long shot, along with Freedom, Blessing of Protection, and 4 ways to break yourself out of CC with Divine Shield, Trinket, Blessing of Sacrifice, and Hand of Sacrifice. Using these not only breaks CC on you, but also reduces your team's damage taken by a ton. You have Concentration Aura, making you pair very well with any caster in the game, on top of having Aura Mastery, allowing yourself and entire team to be free casting for 6 seconds, becoming immune to all silences and kicks. You can dispel every CC in the game except for curses, even including physical, because you can use Blessing of Protection on your teammates to remove disarm, kidney shot, blind, etc., or Hand of Freedom for any kind of a physical slow like hamstring. Beacon of Light also allows you to heal 2 targets at the same time, giving you a pretty solid amount of healing for multiple targets on your team. Holy Paladins pair well with virtually any comp in the game since your toolkit is so large and your raw healing power is so high. Why you would want to play a Holy Paladin is because you enjoy casting heals and not being overly aggressive while having a ton of healing power and utility to keep your team alive. Why you wouldn't enjoy playing a Holy Paladin is because you have almost no healing over time effects and exclusively rely on spike healing in tandem with your Sacred Shield, so you will be getting spam purged a lot since the other team is aware that your Sacred Shield needs to be purged. You are also one of the biggest targets for a spell cleave since you have no baseline healing over time effects and need to cast to keep yourself alive. A good Holy Paladin will make it feel impossible to kill anyone. They will have perfect uptime on Sacred Shield in combination with Freedom and an absurd amount of healing. Killing any target versus a good Holy Paladin feels all but impossible since they will always somehow be breaking your CCs and keeping their team at full health. And now we are moving on to the last spec on the list, which is the Preg Paladin. This is a hybrid retribution spec that plays with a shield and a fast attacking spellblade. This spec relies very heavily on getting crits with their melee weapon because every time they crit, it procs their Art of War, which gives them an instant cast Flash of Light or an instant cast Exorcism for more damage. When you pair this with Reckoning, which gives them extra swings for even more crits, the amount of off heals they're able to cast is actually insane. This spec is hands down the best support DPS in the entire game since their off healing is so absurd, in tandem with decent damage and a massive toolkit keeping their team alive and on their kill target at all times. Why you would want to play a Preg Paladin is because you enjoy having a lot of utility for your team while also doing decent melee damage. You are able to save yourself and teammates out of scenarios where they would usually die thanks to your massive off heals and defensives. Why you wouldn't want to play a Preg is because their damage is pretty RNG dependent on their Reckoning procs as well as their off heals, plus their baseline damage being not super high. Getting your gear will also be a little tricky since you need a spell blade as well as a tanking shield to be effective, in tandem with some off pieces for a melee. A good Preg will have perfect uptime on their kill target while also ensuring their team never falls behind by freedoming anyone out of any important stun and constantly keeping their healer dispelled while also providing massive amounts of off heals. Fighting a good Preg Paladin is very frustrating since they have so many cooldowns that you need to go through before you're able to land a kill. Moving away from the Paladin and onto one of the most famous classes for PvP, we are of course talking about the Mage. While you can play all 3 specs in Wrath of the Lich King for Arena, I will be talking about the 2 most common ones for 3.3.5, which are Frost and Fire. Starting out with Frost, you will be relying heavily on your 2 new talents to proc and get extra damage, which are Fingers of Frost and Brain Freeze. They both can be procced by hitting a target with a chill effect, so casting Rankwood Frostbolts or using Cone of Cold are great ways to try and proc these. After you get your procs, it will allow you to cast a Deep Freeze on a target with no Nova, letting you utilize it for either more CC or damage. Once you get your procs, this is where almost all of your damage comes from, by using your cooldowns and casting Frostbolts with an instant Frostfire Bolt into a Deep Freeze. Your Polymorph also wipes dots off of any target that is cast into, thanks to a new glyph. Setting up your damage windows and landing CC on the enemy is the bread and butter of the Frost Mage. Why you would want to play a Frost Mage is because you enjoy setting up a window where you can cast a big shatter as well as having a strong toolkit of CC, damage, and defensives. Frost Mages are also very difficult to play in Wrath of the Lich King when compared to TBC, since their instant cast spells don't do nearly as much damage as they used to. Why you wouldn't want to play a Frost Mage is because they are extremely squishy and easy to fall behind with, seeing as you need to be casting to be effective, and if the enemy team shuts you down, then there is not much fun to be had. Up next is Fire. Now this spec gets a truckload of buffs going into Wrath. Your main goal as a Fire Mage is to dot up the enemy team with Living Bomb, and look for windows where you can get a solid Dragon's Breath either on the enemy team and polymorph them out of it, or even one on the enemy DPS, completely taking their momentum away. You will also be getting procs for instant cast Pyroblast, which when used correctly can absolutely destroy someone. Blazing Speed will also be allowing you to literally sprint around the map almost constantly, making it easier to get into a good spot to set up a kill window with Dragon's Breath into some big damage. Why you would want to play a Fire Mage is because they have an extremely high amount of mobility with Blazing Speed along with Blink, and use mostly instant casts to keep the pressure up. Dragon's Breath is also an extremely satisfying ability on a very short cooldown, allowing you to get yourself some great setups with it. Why you wouldn't want to play a Fire Mage is because you only have one ice block, allowing you to die fairly easily in a lot of scenarios, as well as your damage being pretty dependent on procs. A good Fire Mage will be rotting your team to death with Living Bomb and chaining Dragon's Breath into Poly off cooldown, creating a ton of pressure while also blast waving your entire team into the wrong positions. Moving on to a class that has received a massive amount of buffs, we are now covering the Hunter. While you can technically play all three specs, there is one that reigns supreme by a large margin, which is of course Marksmanship. Marksmanship Hunters are arguably one of the hardest classes to play in the game, since you have such a large toolkit of abilities for not only yourself, but also your pet. Your main form of crowd control comes from your scatter shot into a freezing trap. Keep in mind that the enemy knows this and will always try to stand on your traps to eat them, forcing you to use your other cooldowns to try and land this, like rooting the enemy DPS while trying to trap the healer. As a hunter, you have a very high consistent amount of damage output, on top of giving a Mortal Strike effect from your aim shot, which you will be using regularly. Your pet has a freedom for yourself or your teammates, as well as Roar of Sacrifice and Intervene, allowing you to mitigate a ton of damage with just your pet. Since hunters are particularly squishy and don't need to cast, it is very common to see them have a hit and run playstyle, where they only peek a pillar to do damage or traps while dodging the enemy's damage. Why you would want to play a hunter is because they have an extremely high skill cap and a ton of abilities to help keep your team in the lead. On top of that, having Mortal Strike and a ton of damage makes a hunter a great addition to almost any comp. Why you wouldn't want to play a hunter is because you are usually the kill target, since all you have is 2 deterrences to keep yourself alive, which can be disarmed to prevent you from casting them. The amount of abilities this class has is immense, so you will need a truckload of keybinds to properly play it, while it also not being a very forgiving class, since one wrong disengage can be your death. A good hunter will perfectly utilize their massive toolkit to make sure whoever they are hitting is taking unhealable damage, and that enemy healer can literally not play the game. Fighting a good hunter is one of the scariest classes in the game, since they have so much damage and so many different abilities to be aware of. Moving away from the hunter, we are now talking about the druid. All three specs for this class are viable and have very strong comps if you pair them with the right classes. Starting it off, we are going to be talking about the resto druid. Your main goal as the resto druid is to always pre-hot your teammate who is the kill target, while also always watching the team to see who they want to swap to, since you are so reliant on your healing over time effects to save them, and it takes you multiple globals to get a row of hots on a target. If the enemy team catches a resto druid off guard, it is very easy to simply swap a target with no hots and 100-0 them. Utilizing Cyclone and Entangling Roots is absolutely essential to your success, seeing as in many scenarios your healing is not enough to keep your team alive. You have the most amount of crowd control out of any healer in the game, so make sure that you are abusing that. Why you would want to play a resto druid is because you are the most mobile healer, while also having a massive toolkit to keep the enemy in CC and almost never having to cast to keep your team alive. Why you wouldn't want to play a resto druid is because it is a very difficult class to play, seeing as falling behind is simply a matter of if you didn't pre-hot the right target or you failed to land a CC. You also have no major defensives to save yourself or your teammates besides Swiftmen, so if you are being tunneled by a melee cleave, it can be extremely frustrating. A good resto druid will never drop a global on their casts and be constantly resetting the enemy's DPS with cyclones, roots, and bash, while also keeping their team pre-hotted for any types of damage that the enemy team is trying to land. This is a class where it is extremely obvious when the druid is good, because they will be literally 3 steps ahead of you all game. Moving on to the Boomkin, this class relies very heavily on its cooldown Starfall, which rains stars on every target within 30 yards. It is absolutely imperative for the Boomkin to get maximum value out of this spell, since it is one of the hardest hitting AoE abilities in the game. If you are CC'd with anything other than a silence on your Starfall, 0 stars will be falling during that CC, making the cooldown completely useless. Always keep track of what CCs the enemy is hitting you with, and utilize this ability when you are on DR for CCs to make sure that they can't stop your Starfall. Don't forget to spam Root and Cyclone the enemy team when you are trying to set up your damage. If you are able to cast Starfire with your procs, it is very possible that you can 2-shot somebody, so always be looking for any loose targets who are far from their healer. Why you would want to play a Boomkin is because they have a very high damage output when left alone, as well as an extremely powerful CC, which is Cyclone. Utilizing this ability to keep low health targets from receiving heals, as well as cloning the DPS to prevent incoming damage, is absolutely essential to your survival. Why you wouldn't want to play a Boomkin is because they are very easy to shut down, since Cyclone, Wrath, and Starfire all need to be casted, and if you can't get any of those out, then you're not going to be doing very much damage. When playing against a good Boomkin, your entire team is in clones and roots the entire game, and when somebody is not cloned, they are going to be taking a ton of damage, on top of everyone being full dots, and the moment you waste your CC, they pop Starfall and kill your entire team at the same time. Moving on to the last spec for Druids, we are now talking about the Feral specialization.
What would you
This
ask?
spec has some of the highest burst damage in the game, and is also paired with extremely high mobility. You are absolutely fantastic at running targets down, since you have a passive 30% speed buff in Cat, and can shift literally every slow in the game. You have a 3-minute cooldown called Berserk that, when activated, allows you to absolutely destroy any target that you are connected with. You also pick up Predatory Strikes, allowing you to cast instant Cyclones every time you execute a finishing move. Abusing this and constantly cycloning the enemy is essential to maintaining your pressure. Why you would want to play a Feral is because you enjoy being a highly mobile melee class with instant cast CCs and extremely high burst damage when popping your cooldowns. Why you wouldn't want to play a Feral is because it has a pretty hard learning curve, since you are squishy and can be forced to go defensive if you find yourself out of position even for a couple of seconds. Once you are forced into bear form, you don't do very much other than wait to get healed. A good Feral will be glued to their target the entire game while off-charging the healer or any DPS trying to peel them off, and utilizing their large toolkit of CC to keep them and their entire team ahead while never losing any pressure. And the final class that we will be covering is the infamous Death Knight. You can play both Frost and Unholy in Arena, however Unholy is much more common and also much stronger, so I will only be covering Unholy. Unholy DKs have some of the highest raw damage in the entire game and a decent amount of utility for themselves and their team. As a Death Knight, you actually have no real gap closers and will be relying on Death Grip to bring your targets to you, combined with Chains of Ice and Desecration. Both of these will prevent them from getting away, so it is very important to utilize them properly. You do have Anti-Magic Shell, which is a 5-second spell immunity, allowing you to chase down targets like Frost Mages or Warlocks. Icebound Fortitude allows you to become immune to stuns for a short time, as well as reducing a decent amount of damage. You have another team-wide defensive, which is called Anti-Magic Zone. This creates a purple dome that reduces any incoming magic damage shot into it by a large margin, helping your team survive against any kind of casters. On top of all of that, you have an extremely high amount of burst damage when popping your cooldowns in tandem with your Gargoyle. Why you would want to play a Death Knight is because they have a ton of raw damage and never run out of resources, since they don't rely on mana. On top of that, they are a threat to any target that they are hitting, since they have so much damage, along with having a fairly large toolkit of utility to keep themselves alive. Why you wouldn't want to play a Death Knight is because after you have used your Death Grip and Anti-Magic Shell, you will literally be waddling at any target that is not near you, since you actually have no gap closers. So you need to be very careful when using your Death Grip. A good Unholy Death Knight will be doing insane damage from start to finish, as well as making the enemy healer's life impossible by gripping them on their cast exactly when they need to heal, and then dual stunning them while waiting to kick their cast. The moment that the Death Knight gets fate casted, they will simply strangulate them to prevent any other heals from coming through, and then explode in their duel to absolutely delete the healer before they can even cast a spell. Liking the video helps me out immensely. I do stream on Twitch almost every day, so definitely feel free to check me out there. Consider supporting the channel to keep it alive on Patreon, or by joining as a member of YouTube to keep me going as a content creator. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.
I want to make a fire mage on fucking retail now. So fun on classic too. Like this class is just so fun. Then I'm gonna get blink, and then yeah. This class is just fucking awesome. I don't know why I keep running away from it. I don't know. Where's all the spiders at? There's the spider boys. She poisoned me?
That spell isn't ready yet.
Damn, fucking after that pull.
That's still recharging.
Resist. Well, that's not good. Oh, big crit. We're good.
I can't cast that yet.
Uh-oh. Not good. Not good. Not good. Not good. Not good. Don't pull aggro. Don't pull aggro. No, no, yeah. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Are you fucking serious? Are you serious? Oh my Lanta, bro. I might be in trouble. Low key. Jeez. Yeah, I would love to leave the mine.
That spell isn't ready yet. That's still recharging.
Wrath of the Lich King PvP tier list. Demonology Warlock? Classic Arena D tier PvP. What? This website. Oh. Orcs, Unholy Death Knight, Pharaoh. Frost Mage. Frost Mages work well with very many comms since first you can play RMP, Broke, Mage, Priest, MLS, Mage, Lock, Shaman, Shatterplay, Shadow Priest, Frost Mage, Healer. The list goes on.
What now? Beware, our enemy is about. I have exactly what you need. Watch your back.
Watch your back. Watch your back. Watch your back.
Hello?
Alright, so we're about to be 6.
Too far away. That spell isn't ready yet. I need to get closer. That's still charging. Too far away.
I don't know about that pool.
That spell isn't ready yet.
Did that even hit me? Like negative damage.
I need to get closer. I can't cast that yet.
This is by far the most satisfying classic class. Warlock felt pretty good too, but this just feels so nice. Like,
That spell isn't ready yet. I can't cast that yet.
now we're gonna get Fire Blast. Yeah, we're just pumping at this point.
That's still recharging.
Oh, need to make more.
Not enough mana. My mana is low. I need more mana.
Oh, come on with that.
I can't cast that yet. That's still recharging. That spell isn't ready yet.
The only downside is you go kind of quick, but you crank so fast. Like you're up and down. I don't know. I feel like it's really fast.
I'm out of range. I need to get closer. I can't cast that yet. That's still recharging. My mana is low.
I wonder if there's an AoE slow build for TBC.
That spell isn't ready yet. I'm out of range. That's still recharging.
All right, so now we get Fire Blast. And that's gonna be on 3. Yeah, it's gonna be on 3. So rank 1 will go here.
I am forsaken. Embrace the shadow.
More water.
Hello. Trust no one.
I am forsaken.
285. Oh, I definitely have enough.
Dark Lady Watcher.
That's rank 2, rank 1, rank 1, rank 1. Okay, good. And then conjure food.
What do you require? Victory for Sylvanus.
Wrath of the Lich King PvP comps.
The Elemental Shaman goes into the S+ tier. It is, in my opinion, the strongest caster in the entire expansion. Has so much utility, and if you've ever fought a good LE Shaman and you're a caster, you know that they literally don't even let you play the game. Now moving on to the Resto Shaman. This class gets massive buffs in Wrath, which are very needed, making them a much stronger healer. For example, a big one they get is Riptide, which is the Mage. This class gets a decent amount of new abilities in Wrath of the Lich King. While most of them come from the talent trees, there are a few that don't. Mirror Image is now a new bursting ability that summons 3 copies of the Mage that will all start casting into the target the Mage hits, and they will also follow the Mage around, giving them extra damage. They can cast Frost Bolts, which slow, etc. They also picked up Frostfire Bolt, which is like Frostbolt, where it slows them, but it also applies Dot. Another massive change that they get is Glyph of Polymorph. This allows them to have a full dotted target with all kinds of dots, and then they cast Polymorph on them, and it instantly removes all the dots, so the Polymorph sits for the entire duration, making spell cleaves very, very strong, also allowing them to switch around targets really quickly. Lastly, Glyph of Evocation now allows the mage to be healed while evocating. This makes double DPS comps even stronger in 2s, so for example, you have Rogue Mage, as well as Shatterplay, which is Shadow Priest, Frost Mage. Those are 2 very strong comps in Wrath of the Lich King. Up first on the spec list is Arcane. Now, this spec is extremely one-dimensional, since all it does is it stacks Arcane Blasts on a target until they get a Missile Barrage proc, which causes Arcane Missiles to shoot very fast, and then after the Arcane Missiles go off, they just shoot an Arcane Barrage at the target. They do get Presence of Mind, just like in TBC, so they can usually instantly cast an ability. Most of the time, Arcane Mages will instant cast Polymorphs to land them when the healer doesn't have a trinket, so that way they can try to get a kill. They only have 1 ice block since they don't have Cold Snap, and also run out of mana very, very quickly since you spam Arcane Blast, and Arcane Blast is very, very mana hungry. If they are able to cast, they do lots of damage, but require multiple Arcane Blast casts to get them going. You could run a few spell cleaves like MLS, MLD, but generally speaking, Arcane is the worst out of all three since it's so dependent on landing those Arcane Blasts and you're overall just not giving as much utility as Fire or Frost. This lands it in the C tier. Up next is Fire. Now this spec gets a complete rework from TBC. It now revolves around dots, however it does have some burst, which is an interesting way to play the mage. They pick up Living Bomb, which is a very, very powerful spell. It is an instant cast damage over time effect that will allow the mage to get procs off of it to give them other abilities. This dot can actually crit on its dot effect, which is the only ability in the game that does this. That's thanks to Glyph of Living Bomb, which also helps them get procs. On top of that, it will explode, dealing damage to everybody in the area, which is very strong if you're able to stack it on a whole team. Dragon's Breath also gets a big buff, going from a 3-second disorient to now a 5-second disorient, which is absolutely huge for setting up polymorphs. Since Dragon's Breath shoots out in a cone, you can actually hit multiple people at once, making it a fantastic way to peel your teammates, or set up a whole kill where you can run in, Dragon's Breath the whole team, and then polymorph somebody off it and kill the other, etc. Another great feature about Dragon's Breath is that it doesn't clean the dots off, so if you Dragon's Breath the whole team and you want to kill one who's already dotted, you can simply poly the other, and your dots won't break that Dragon's Breath, which is really nice. Any direct damage, though, will break a Dragon's Breath, so like if you have a rogue auto-attacking, that will break it, but any of your dots won't. They also get Impact, which is a nice stun, but does DR many others, so it's definitely a situational ability to use depending on what comp you're running. Blast Wave now has a nice AoE knockback that can completely scramble the enemy positions of the team if used correctly at the right time. This is great for obviously Blade's Edge or Dalaran Sewers. You can knock the entire team into 3 different directions and try to kill one. Fire Mages also keep Blazing Speed from TBC, which is great for their mobility. Another passive they pick up is Fiery Payback, which reduces all damage taken after going under 35% health, along with giving them a 1.5 second Pyroblast when that is active, and also a 10% chance to disarm the attacker, which are all very strong. The next 2 notable talents they get are Burning Determination, which makes them immune to the next silence or interrupt for 20 seconds after getting interrupted or silenced. And lastly, they get Hot Streak, which allows them to cast an instant Pyroblast after getting 2 crits in a row with any of their main abilities, including Living Bomb ticks. This procs a good amount and allows them to get a strong burst window with it. Overall, Fire Mages have the best sustained damage out of all 3 specializations, but do lack a second Ice Block as well as not having Deep Freeze. They pair very well with dot comps like Affliction Lock Mage Healer or Spicy Chicken Cleave, which is Boomkin Fire Mage Healer. Combining all these things together, Fire Mage goes into the upper B tier. Now we are moving on to the most famous mage spec, which is Frost. This spec is extremely powerful in Wrath, just like it is in TBC. They now picked up Deep Freeze, which is extremely strong, seeing as it is a 5-second stun, but also a freeze, allowing the mage to shatter the person for the full 5 seconds without it breaking under any amount of damage. This is a great ability because you can actually not only do damage with it, but you can also set up healers to get polymorphed out of it. So a very, very nice ability that Frost mages pick up. They also get Fingers of Frost, which is a 15% chance on their chill effects to act as if the target was frozen, aka shatter them with no Nova. They can also deep freeze a target who isn't Nova'd with this, making it extremely powerful. Lastly, they get Brain Freeze, which allows them to cast Frostfire Bolt instantly. Frostfire Bolt does over 3 times more damage than Ice Lance, so if they get this Brain Freeze proc, and then they use a Deep Freeze into a Frost Bolt, Frostfire Bolt shatter combo, destroys people. Other than those abilities, they still have the same kit from TBC, which is already wildly strong. They work well with very many comps since they have such good control and high burst. You can play RMP, which is Rogue Mage Priest, of course, MLS, which is Mage Lock Shaman, Shadowplay, which is Shadow Priest, Frost Mage Healer, and the list goes on and on. The only drawback they have in Wrath is that they are a very squishy class and can be killed extremely quickly if they aren't aware of what's about to hit them. All of this puts the Frost Mage into the A tier. Up next is the Paladin. Now, Wrath is really where Paladins get to shine, since they get a whole host of buffs, not only to their general scaling and damage, but also with new abilities. The most important ability that Paladins get in Wrath of the Lich King, and in my opinion, the strongest ability in the entire game of Wrath of the Lich King Arena, hands down, is Sacred Shield. This is a 60-second duration that will shield the target as they take damage over time. If you don't dispel a Sacred Shield on a target and you're attacking into that Sacred Shield over the entire 60-second duration, it will still prevent well over 20,000 damage on the target. This ability has no cooldown, and the Paladin can instantly replace this and swap this around depending on who you're hitting, Only one target can be Sacred Shielded at a time. It does scale with spell power, so Holy Paladins will have a much stronger version of Sacred Shield than a Ret would, for example. This is also just a learned ability, so Prot, Holy, Ret, and Preg all have this. Divine Plea is another brand new ability that Paladins have. It gives them 25% of their mana back over a small amount of time. This has a 1 minute cooldown. It is dispellable, and you also do 50% less healing while it is active, so obviously you have to be aware of when you're going to use it, make sure everybody's topped, etc. Since it is only a 1 minute cooldown, this gives Paladins a lot of mana regen if they don't have it dispelled. Certain blessings have been changed to what's called hands now. That means that you'll keep your blessing if you have a hand on you. For example, in TBC, if you have Blessing of Kings on you, and then you use Blessing of Freedom on yourself, since it's Blessing of Freedom and you can only have one blessing active, the Kings will fall off. Now in Wrath, it's Hand of Freedom. So you can have a Kings on yourself, which is Blessing of Kings, and a Hand of Freedom on yourself, because you have one hand, one blessing on a target. The abilities that this now affects are Hand of Freedom, Hand of Protection, and Hand of Sacrifice for PvP abilities. Another nice buff to Paladins is that they all get 2 sacrifices, which one is Hand of Sacrifice, which is obviously from TBC, just changed, and that is very strong. You can dispel it. However, the second is Divine Sacrifice, which is a brand new one. You get this ability from the Protection talent tree, but it's only 11 points down, so all 3 specs run it. This acts very similarly to Hand of Sacrifice, except it goes on your entire team, and it's non-dispellable, so it's very, very strong. First up on the specialization list for Paladins is the Protection Paladin. Now, this spec picks up a couple new things that are helpful for it in Arena. Your Avenging Shield now silences the target for 3 seconds. You also get Hammer of the Righteous, which is a damaging ability with a 6-second cooldown. You are very tanky to physical damage, since you're obviously a tank with a shield. However, your burst isn't as high as the Ret, and your healing is not as great. You are essentially a worse Ret with a silence. The way that you get kills with this spec is by using your Avenging Shield to silence the target, and then right before the silence ends, you use Hammer of Justice and then try to kill them in that. As I mentioned, you do less burst than a Ret, so obviously not a great spec. It's a very one-dimensional specialization, and overall lands itself a spot into the C tier. Moving on to our next spec, which is Holy. This spec gets so many buffs from TBC to Wrath, it's actually insane. For starters, they get Beacon of Light, which duplicates all of your heals on the target. This ability doesn't double heals on one target, so for example, let's say you cast this on yourself and you heal yourself. There's no extra healing from Beacon of Light, but if you put Beacon of Light on your teammate and then heal yourself, it will heal both of you. They also get Infusion of Light now, which makes their Flash of Light cast instant after critting with a Holy Shock, along with giving their Holy Light an additional 20% chance to crit. Aura Mastery gets a total rework and is now absolutely insane, seeing as it makes yourself and all of your teammates immune to kicks and silences for 6 seconds. Concentration Aura has also received a buff in the Holy Talent tree, giving your entire team 50% less spell pushback, which was already almost non-existent in Wrath anyway. Moving on to the Ret Paladin now. This class gets some nice buffs. For example, you no longer Seal Twist for random crits and have a much more sustained damage. You also picked up Divine Storm, which is an extra attack that deals AoE damage, along with a talent called Art of War. When this procs, it gives you an instant Flash of Light heal and or an instant cast Exorcism. This helps them off-heal their teammates as well as give them extra burst with an instant Exorcism. As I mentioned previously, they also have 2 sacrifices, which is fantastic for helping their teammates and also breaking themselves at a CC. Since they can dispel poisons, diseases, and magic, along with having freedom, bop, and off heals, Rets are an absolutely fantastic support class, and they also have high burst to go along with it. Some comps that you'll see Rets run is Cupid Cleave, which is Ret Paladin, Marksmanship Hunter, and Disc Priest. This comp has double dispel along with a Mortal Strike effect coming from the aim shot, combined with loads of CC, damage, and healing. You can also see Ret's Vanguard Cleave, which is Ret Paladin, Unholy Decay, and Healer. This comp has lots and lots of damage, combined with a very good amount of survivability. All of this information together puts the Ret Paladin into the A tier. Now, before I move on to Priest, there is actually a 4th spec for Paladins in Wrath of the Lich King that was figured out on the private server community, and it's actually surpassed Ret in terms of how much it's played. This spec is called Preg. That's because the person who originally founded the spec was named Preg Hybrid. This is a hybrid spec that goes into the Ret tree for Sheath of Light and Art of War, just like Ret Paladins, but they use a one-hander with a fast attack speed, and they run a bunch of crit gear, giving them Art of War procs extremely frequently. The one-handed weapon they use is actually a spell blade, not only giving them more crits so they can get more Art of War procs, but also lots of spell power, allowing their heals to be even stronger. They do all of this so that way they get lots of crits, proccing their Art of War, giving them tons of off heals with instant flash of lights, as well as instant exorcisms giving them extra damage. The amount of crits that pregs get is insane, and it seems in some arenas that they're almost always just... What is going on, guys? This is Earpugs, and in this video I'm going to be covering a 3v3 arena tier list for Classic Wrath of the Lich S+ tier. Looks like FMP is up next. Now, this comp is much stronger in Wrath than it was in TBC, thanks to a whole host of buffs that the Feral gets. For example, they now have Berserk, which is absolutely insane damage when they pop this. On top of that, they also get Predatory Strikes, which gives them an instant Cyclone anytime they perform a 5-point finishing move, which is very often in the game. It's also very hard to cast into this comp, seeing as they have 2 ranged kicks, along with a good amount of CC like Polymorph and a ton of slows, not to mention the fact that Ferals actually have a real stun now, seeing as Maim doesn't break on damage, so that is basically a kidney shot, and of course the Priest having Fear as well. A couple big negatives to this comp though is the fact that the Feral doesn't give them a Mortal Strike effect like a Rogue would with Wound Poison. So that means that they really have to have very scripted goes to land a kill, because if the healer is able to cast into his teammate, it's unlikely that you're going to kill them. Also, Ferals and Mages are fairly squishy in Wrath of the Lich King and decently easy to kill. Nevertheless, this is a strong comp when played correctly and lands itself a spot in the A tier. On the topic of Ferals, looks like Jungle Cleave is next. Now, this is a comp that has absolutely insane burst damage, while also having a ton of CC and mobility, since the Feral can shift every slow in the game in the S tier. Moving on to another spell cleave that is very strong, we have MLS up next. Now, this comp can be played with either Fire or Frost, and also Destro or Affliction from the lock, depending on what playstyle you guys are trying to do. You can also replace the Resto Shaman with a Resto Druid, and it's pretty much just as good. MLS is a comp that can literally CC you for eternity, seeing as they have enough CC where they can actually just full chain you and then wait for the DR to be off and just rechain you again. For example, they can Fear you into a Polymorph, into a Seduction, into a Nova, into a Slow, back into a Fear, back into a Polymorph, vice versa, etc. So much control this comp has, it's very, very, very strong. And of course, Mages and Warlocks do tons of damage in Wrath of the Lich King. This is another very, very strong spell cleave, and definitely one that you will see at the top of the ladder. MLS lands itself a spot in the S tier as well. Moving on to an absolutely horrifying comp to deal with, we are talking about PhD, aka Paladin, Hunter, Death Knight. This is played with a Holy Paladin, Marksmanship Hunter, and an Unholy DK. This comp has some of the highest sustain damage in the entire game, and it also has an MS effect from the Hunter's aim shot, making it almost impossible to heal the target if both DPS are connected to it. Since they play with a Hunter and a Paladin, they have 2 freedoms to ensure that the Death Knight is always on their kill target and never ensnares. Another huge feature of this team is that the Holy Paladin gives this comp the ability to absolutely all-in the other team with little risk of them dying, seeing as the Paladin can literally run in with them and bubble anytime they get into trouble. They also have bop for their DPS as well, so they can bop their DKs out of kidney shots or any kind of a physical stun, etc. Combining all of the Hunter's CCs together with all of the Death Knight's damage, this is a very, very scary comp, and it must be controlled or else they are guaranteed to kill somebody. All in all, this comp is very scary for multiple reasons and lands itself a spot in the S tier. Moving on to another cleave, we have Ret DK Priest, aka Vanguards. While this comp doesn't have a Mortal Strike effect, it does have a lot of survivability and a ton of damage. The Priest and the Paladin can both dispel magical effects, making this team very hard to get under control, seeing as you have to CC both of them at the same time in order to prevent them from dispelling each other. Not to mention, the Paladin can also be dispelling Rogue's poisons, completely negating them in most situations. This is a comp where if the Paladin pops wings and the DK uses Gargoyle, they are almost guaranteed to kill somebody as long as they both connect, along with all 3 classes having decent defensives as well as self-heals. The only major downside to this comp is that if they don't get a kill when they pop their cooldowns, their sustained damage usually isn't enough. Moving on to RLS, aka Roguelock Shaman. This is a comp that has good control and pressure, but is also extremely squishy B tier. Up next we have RMD, or Rogue Mage Resto Druid. Now, this comp is not as good as it was in TBC, since Resto Druids can't play as aggressively anymore, since they have no feral charge, and bear form also being slightly worse than it was in TBC due to armor scaling. It still has a rogue and a mage of course, which are a very good combination. Also, Blind no longer shares a DR with Cyclone and Wrath of the Lich King, allowing them to have a very long CC chain on a healer. If the healer trinkets, they can land Polymorph into Blind into Cyclone, which is 26 seconds of that healer not being able to play, not to mention Counterspell or any kind of extra CCs they can throw at them out of that. Both the Druid and Rogue can also stealth in this opener, allowing them to usually open how they want to. This comp does have a monster amount of control and some pretty high burst damage if the Rogue and Mage connect. However, it does fall apart rather quickly if the opener they get isn't perfect, seeing as all three classes are very squishy and Resto Druids specifically are fairly easy to kill for most cleaves. All in all, it is a decent comp and it goes into the B tier. And of course, we can't talk about RMD without talking about RMP. Now, this comp is still very strong in Wrath, just like it is in TBC, thanks to their insane opener combining the Rogue's stuns with the Mage's Shatter and the Priest's offensive dispels. If played correctly, RMP can beat any comp in the entire game, which makes it very strong. Disc Priest also receiving a fair amount of buffs going into Wrath of the Lich King helps this comp out a lot. It plays very similarly to the way it does in TBC, and there's not too much to say about this comp other than it's just very good, which you probably already all know from TBC. This comp lands itself a spot in the S tier. Speaking of classes getting buffed in Wrath of the Lich King, looks like RPD is next, aka Rogue, Shadow Priest, Resto Druid. With Shadow Priest receiving a number of buffs to their survivability and overall damage, RPD actually becomes very strong in Wrath of the Lich King. This is a comp where if they catch a target out of position and the Shadow Priest is able to cast into them, it is almost guaranteed that that target is going to die as long as the Rogue can lock them down. This comp's burst is astronomical with Mind Blast, Shadow Word Death, and the Rogue's ambushes. Not to mention the fact that the Rogue has an MS effect from their Wound Poison, making their already insane damage very difficult to heal. On top of that, Druids not being able to be polymorphed and the Shadow Priest being able to dispel all magical CCs off of their teammates makes this team very hard to land a CC chain on them. They can also deal with cleaves pretty decently, seeing as they have so much control and 2 disarms. The only major downfall to this comp is that if the Shadow Priest gets shut down and can't put any pressure out, they will undoubtedly fall behind because the Shadow Priest is the #1 person on this team that gives them the kill pressure. However, this comp has all the tools they need to completely peel the Priest and allow them to free cast on whichever target they choose. Adding all of this together, this puts RPD into the S tier. Moving on to Scooby-Doo Cleave, aka Ret Paladin, Rogue, and Disc Priest. This comp has a very high amount of damage if both the Ret and the Rogue are able to connect onto one target, while also having an MS effect from the Rogue's Wound Poison, allowing them to generate huge pressure on any target they are hitting. Since this comp is usually ran with a Disc Priest, that gives them A tier. Looks like Shadowplay is up next. This is another comp that gets a bunch of... Up next is one of the scariest 3v3 comps in the entire game, which is called Shadowplay, aka Shadow Priest, Frost Mage, and Resto Shaman. This comp has one of the highest bursts in the entire game and can very easily 100-0 any target in a deep freeze. On top of that, running it with a Resto Shaman gives them Bloodlust, Purge, Hex, Wind Shear, and Grounded Totem. Not to mention the fact that the Shadow Priest having Psychic Scream into Polymorph alone gives them a very long CC chain. The Shadow Priest also has Psychic Horror now, a Blanket Silence, and the Mage of course still has Counterspell. If you're able to somehow live that giant barrage of CC chains, don't worry because the Shaman has Wind Shear to make sure your healer cannot cast a single global and will purge off any kind of shield or healing buff you give to your teammates instantly, making it extremely hard to beat this team if they land a CC chain while your healer has no trinket. Not to mention the fact that the Shadow Priest has Dispel Magic as well, allowing them to double purge targets, and also take any kind of CCs off of their teammates like Polymorphs and Fears, etc. If the enemy healer has no trinket and gets caught into any kind of a CC chain, that's pretty much the game right there. I can't stress enough how absolutely insane Shadowplay is in Wrath of the Lich King, and when played correctly, it definitely is one of those comps that makes it feel like it's impossible to beat them, seeing as they have so much utility and so much damage. This comp lands itself a spot in the S+ tier for a multitude of reasons. Moving on to a surprising comp that shows up in Wrath of the Lich King. We are now talking about Spicy Chicken Cleave, aka Fire Mage, Boomkin, Resto Shaman. This is a comp that has a lot of damage and control, thanks to Living Bomb plus the Druid's Dots, and of course Cyclone. The biggest strength this comp has is the ability to be constantly cycloning 1 out of 3 of the enemy team at all times, which on top of not breaking on damage also locks their health bar in place, seeing as you're not able to heal into a cyclone. This creates a dynamic where the longer you go into the game and the more trinkets you get from the enemy team, the further the spicy chicken cleave gets ahead as long as they're landing those cyclones. Not to mention the mage having tons of CC with Counterspell, Dragon's Breath, and Polymorph, of course. If you let them free cast, this comp can definitely spiral out of control very quickly and land themselves a win. However, it suffers from the same spell cleave problem, where if you sit on the boomkin and they can't get their cyclones out, they will struggle to gain any kind of pressure. All in all, this comp definitely lands itself a spot in the A tier. We are now moving on to, in my opinion, probably the strongest comp in the entire game, if not one of them. We are now talking about Thundercleave. This comp is Arms Warrior, Ellie Shaman, Holy Paladin. Thanks to the truckload of buffs that all 3 of these classes and specs get going into Wrath of the Lich King, this comp becomes absolutely insane. The baseline amount of damage that this comp can put out at any time is astronomical. All the Ellie Shaman has to do is hit a Lava Burst into a Chain Lightning, and as long as the warrior is hitting that person with Mortal Strike up, they have a very high probability of landing a kill. This comp also has a fair amount of utility with Grounding Totem, Tremor Totem, Hand of Freedom, 2 Sacrifices, Bop, Bubble, Pex, and more. The constant threat from the Ellie Shaman's Wind Shears make healing against this an absolute nightmare, seeing as you have to fake your cast every 6 seconds or else it's going to be interrupted by that. Combining that with all of the warrior's off charges and kicks, they usually don't even need to land any kind of a major CC chain to land a kill on somebody, since they have so many cast breaks. This is a comp that goes from not that great in TBC to absolutely beyond fantastic in Wrath of the Lich King, and for a plethora of reasons lands itself a spot in the S+ tier. On the topic of unhealable damage, looks like we have TSG up next, which is Arms Warrior, Unholy Death Knight, and Holy Paladin. This is an extremely famous comp for a multitude of reasons, seeing as it has the highest consistent damage output of any comp in the entire game if both the DK and the warrior connect to one target. On top of that, the warrior is giving an MS effect to any target they are hitting, adding an absurd level of pressure. If any healer is caught with both of these classes on them, there is a 100% chance that that healer will be dead in a matter of seconds if they don't get peeled. The amount of cast breaks that this comp has is absurd to say the least, seeing as they have Pummel, Mind Freeze, Strangulate, Charge, Intercept, Dual Stun, and Death Grip, not to mention the Paladin's Hodge. That is 8 separate ways for them to stop you from casting, on top of absolutely nuking your health bar when they are on you. What's so crazy about TSG is that this comp does so much damage if both the warrior and the DK were connected to a healer, and the healer was hard casting heals in front of them, the healer would still die because the damage is so high. The only way to stop this comp is to either out pressure them so they have to play defensive, or to peel them so your healer can get away. Once you get their cooldowns and trinkets, their damage does fall off a little and becomes manageable as long as you're peeling them. However, a failure to do this will guarantee your defeat. TSG, for obvious reasons, goes into the S+ tier. And the last comp for this tier list is WLS, which is another blanket damage comp that has very high sustain damage thanks to the lock's huge dots and the warrior being able to hit multiple people at once with Blade Storm as well as Sweeping. What is going on, guys? This is Earpugs, and in this video I'm going to be covering a 2v2 arena tier list for Classic Wrath of the Lich King. This tier list does assume the 3.3.5 patch, which will be the endgame balance patch. This is used by pretty much every private server out there, so behind on health, it's pretty much over for them as long as they are not able to reset. Combining all these factors, that lands this comp a spot in the A tier. Speaking of changes going into Wrath of the Lich King, Shatterplay is up next, which is Shadow Priest Frost Mage. I can't stress enough how strong this comp is in 2v2. Not only do they have Psychic Scream into Polymorph into Blanket Silence into a counterspell, but they have absolutely unhealable damage if they're able to land a Deep Freeze on somebody and both of them connect to that target. To top that off, Shadow Priests now have Dispersion. Mages, of course, have 2 ice blocks. Shadow Priest off healing is still very good, since they changed spell power now to just be a flat number instead of having healing versus just DPS numbers like in TBC. And also, Frost Mage is getting the ability to heal with evocation through a glyph now. Whenever this comp gets a healer's trinket, that healer is not playing the game the next time they land a poly or a fear. This comp, as you can probably guess, is very, very, very good and lands itself a spot in the S+ tier, and in my opinion is one of the best 2s comps in the entire game. On the topic of Shadow Priest, we have Shadow Priest Rogue up next. Now, this is another comp that gets huge buffs going into Wrath of the Lich King thanks to the overall scaling, as well as the abilities that Shadow Priest pick up, like Psychic Horror and Dispersion. This comp's burst is almost the same as Shadowplay and can absolutely demolish people, completely 100-0 them in a cheap kidney if they're not ready for it, and has an extremely strong opener thanks to the Rogue being able to get a sap in most situations and completely destroy the other target. With the addition of Psychic
So I can
Horror
wear
as well,
daggers,
that not only
staves,
gives them a great
swords,
offensive and also
and
defensive
wands.
ability to completely reset some target whenever they need to peel them, especially warriors when they blade storm, etc. Overall, Shadow Priest Rogue is an absolutely phenomenal comp and also extremely powerful in Wrath of the Lich King for 2v2. This comp lands itself a spot in the S+ tier as well. It is now time for the most infamous 2v2 combo in Wrath of the Lich King, the Mac Daddy 2's comp that has ruled the private server ladder for years. Thanks to the ridiculous amount of buffs that Holy Paladins get, and as well as warriors, Holy Paladin Warrior in 2v2 is insane, and in my opinion, probably the best 2v2 comp in the entire game. You have absolute truckloads of damage from the Warrior, not to mention the fact that they have Mortal Strike for 50% healing reduction, and if they're on a healer and they land an Overpower, they get 75% healing reduction, basically making it so they don't even need to kick the healer, they're just gonna die every time. On top of that, there's virtually no way to stop the Warrior from being a Wrecking Ball, seeing as the Holy Paladin has 4 ways to break themselves out of CC, with 2 sacrifices, a trinket, and a bubble, not to mention freedoms and dispels on the Warrior, allowing the Warrior to do literally whatever they want to whoever they're targeting. And of course, if you do manage to get through the wall of CC breaks on that Paladin, the Warrior can also Blade Storm any kind of CC, if they're able to Blade Storm before you cast it. If I said this comp was strong, I would be underselling it because it's honestly beyond insane. This comp, of course, lands itself a spot in the S+ tier. Moving on to another Warrior comp, we have Warrior Resto Druid up next. This comp plays fairly similarly to how it did in TBC, except the Warrior is now more mobile with Blade Storm and the ability to charge in combat on top of Intercept. The Resto Druid definitely plays more passively now than it did in TBC, since they no longer have Feral Charge and their damage is a little bit reduced. The comp is still strong, however it suffers from the same problems that it did in TBC, which is not being able to dispel any magical effects on the Warrior, thus allowing any kind of a mage team to just lock the Warrior in place for a very long portion of the game. Of course, the Warrior has Blade Storm now, which is great, but it is a fairly long cooldown, and you're going to be able to chain CC the Warrior for a large portion of the game if you're a mage fighting against this team. The Druid does help out, of course, with Roots and Cyclones, and the Warrior has tons of damage, plus the healing reductions. Overall, this comp lands itself a spot in the A tier. Moving on to Arms Warrior Retribution Paladin, this comp is absolutely able to demolish any target that they land onto. However, it is definitely a one-and-done comp. If they don't kill anybody within the first minute or so, it's pretty much guaranteed that one of them is going to be dead. With that in mind, though, definitely be aware that this comp can 100-0 any target, plus the insane healing reduction from the Warrior. The Paladin is also very hard to land a CC chain on, since they have so many ways to break CC, as well as the Warrior having Blade Storm, the Paladin giving them freedom, and then of course dispelling all the magical effects and poisons off the Warrior, giving them as much uptime as possible. This comp is another one that is pretty strong overall. It's going to go into the bottom of the A tier. However, if you were to play this comp with a Preg Paladin in Season 8 at the end of Wrath of the Lich King, that comp is very, very good, and I would probably put that in the S tier, seeing as Preg Paladins have tons of healing and damage, along with a lot of utility, of course, to help the Warrior out. If you don't know what a Preg Paladin is, definitely check out my other tier list, because I describe it in there. And last on the list, we have Arms Warrior Resto Shot. This comp is actually not quite as good as it is in TBC, since Wind Fury gets a pretty big nerf, no longer giving you those huge smacks with the double auto attacks, which is of course a large portion of this comp's kills. However, Shamans also have Hex now, which is very good, and of course Warriors have Blade Storm, allowing them to get themselves out of CC. It doesn't have any dispels, so mage teams are going to be a bit of a problem. Luckily for the Warrior though, the Shaman can at least ground and wind shear a lot of the polymorphs that are going to be cast on the Warrior.
It shouldn't really happen. That's kind of like a skew. That's like a 5% of the games that'll happen. But we realistically get 2 or 3 goes, then every other go after that, I'm gonna be kidney shot on every go, you know? chance you have Wrath PvP experience, and if so, does Shatter play beat H Valley Warrior in 2s? I played Wrath and I like 2400 when I was a kid without using any key bindings. Don't remember anything about it. Sorry. I would assume it could do pretty good. But they say, I don't know, they have Blade Storm. I feel like a Blade Storm would probably more for just kill the priest or something. I'm not sure, I can see win conditions for both sides.
Yeah, Bladestorm is a thing.
You,
Yeah, those fucking losers, man. See how the priest isn't even mounted up because he knows it's us.
No sense, man. Like I don't get it. Like
Why?
All our streaming subscriptions are adding up. I need to cut back.
Hold up. You don't have to sacrifice. State Farm has raised to fit your budget.
Subscribe. Unsubscribe.
Whatever. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or click to get a quote today.
maybe it makes him feel powerful. I don't know, man. Like he's got some weird issues. that guy has some fucking deep issues.
I have exactly.
Yeah, small weeby energy, dude. Yeah, he's got some crazy issues. Do you have any Rathalucian PvP experience? Yes, tons. Does Shatter play in 2s beat Holy Power Warrior? Like, Shattering Throw? Also, welcome back, Athlon. Welcome back, dude. Shatter play. I don't know the names of comps. I know 2v2s and 3v3s, but I don't know nicknames. What's a Shatter play? Frost Mage Shadow Priest. Oh shit. Frost Mage like 2s? Frost Mage Shadow Priest? Frost Mage. Okay, so Frost Mage Shadow Priest versus Holy Power. Man, huh. I want to say yeah. Yeah. I want to say yes. Yeah. Yeah. Like I have a really strong feeling that they would beat him. Yeah. They get Bladestorm, but honestly, if you can just avoid that, what Mage can blink out of it, and Priest got the shield. Shield can probably take a couple hits. How much damage does Bladestorm? Bladestorm doesn't hit for that much, right? Like it's maybe like 30% of someone's health. Is it a lot? I can't remember if when they introduced it, if it was a lot or not, or if they buffed it later or something. They buffed it because I have 10 years. It's hard as fuck. So I've been playing Wrath for 10 years, and for arenas for Wrath, like private service kind of arenas and stuff like that, probably like 4 or 5 years. I have a lot of raid experience with Wrath, but not I haven't PvP'd as much as I PvE'd in Wrath. Yes, yeah. That's a huge one too. Yeah. I don't know, man. I still feel like the Shadow Priest and the Frost Mage would beat that combo, man. Like, I think they could out DPS the Holy Palian warrior. Like, I think they could burn the warrior down as soon as possible. I feel like, right, but okay. So in that scenario, who would you deal with first? In my opinion, I would deal with the fucking warrior first, like immediately, as fast as possible. And if you don't deal with that warrior, then you're fucked. You just need to like CC the Holy Palian and deal with the warrior really fast. No, it can't CC the warrior, but it can CC the mage can CC the Pally at least. And okay, so when you're facing a Pally in arena, that's not the first target you ever want to go for, ever. Pallies, the thing about Pallies is they fucking live forever, dude, and they have so many cooldowns to just fuck with you and just like span time out. You never want to go for a Pally first because they will they are the gods of attrition. They if you go for a Pally first, you're gonna lose the fight. That's what I'm trying to say. You're gonna lose the fight instantly. No, you should CC the Pally. You could CC the Pally just fine. But you're not going to be able to kill him. Like, you're not going to be able to kill him just fine. He could break through all your CCs and just...
Oh.
Fuel your play. With Liquid IV, get 2 times faster hydration than water alone. And get playing. Remember play? Yeah, that carefree, make your own rules. Shoot, let me try that again type of play. The play that makes you dive into new waters. Liquid IV has 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. Because life's better when you're hydrated. Liquid IV. Fuel your play.
My name is Austin Richard Post. I'm a goofy kid. I like to have fun, but it's awesome that people still want to hear what's next. It's pretty badass.
Where's he going?
On a quest to find his credit card?
You should be using a virtual card from Capital One. What?
He said virtual card from Capital One!
It's a feature that lets you make purchases without sharing your actual credit card number.
Sorcery!
What? It's Capital One. You can use a virtual card on your phone or PC. It's a fast, easy way to spend your coin. What's in your wallet?
A dream is the spark of greatness, but it's nothing without drive. Introducing the all-new Honda HR-V. Honda, the power of dreams.
If you do what feels right, then own your style. Philips One Blade, your style made simple.
hopefully, eventually in the future you'll be subbed. Someone will sub you or whatever. And you won't see the ads because, dude, ads are crazy, man. Honestly, like, I'm with you, man. Ads are, I fucking hate seeing ads, and it's really like nothing I can do about that. Part of my deal with Twitch. I gotta stream 149 hours, but I have to follow their ad schedule. So I have to put as many ads as they want me to, basically. I can't say any more than that, but what they suggest is what I have to put down. Because I'm a little bit higher than partner, and when you get to that level, they pretty much advise you what to do, kind of thing. I get you, man. Like, I get you. 149 hours a month. That's fine. So it averages out to be 6.5 hour streams, 5 days a week. Oh, dude. No, I'm with you. That's the thing, man. I'm with you, man. And, like, the ads are fucking ridiculous. There's one guy that was watching me, and I felt for him so bad, man, because this guy said he was watching commercials on my stream for like 6 or 8 minutes. Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. Yeah, you're correct. Yep. No, you're 100% correct, man. The payouts on YouTube is I'm gonna be doing some YouTube content, like, because a lot of people want me to put videos out so they can consume shit they can't catch me live. I like doing this. Like, personally, I like streaming. This is what I like to do, right? I also don't mind putting together videos, like, but I like to stream. Like, this is what I like to do. And Twitch has always had my back. They grandfathered me into a lot of things. I honestly can't really talk bad about Twitch because they've really had my back in a lot of situations. But the ads, man, the ads are crazy. Like, there's no way about it. Like, no roundabout way of saying that. Like, they're getting to a point where, dude. So I don't have it at the highest setting. So if I have it at the highest setting, I'm pretty sure I can force people to sit there like for 10 minutes or something. It's nuts. Like I would never do that because, like, who would stick around for that long? You know what I mean? Who would? If I saw that, I would just fucking leave, right? Like, I'm just like, no, peace. And it's not. It really doesn't come. So the streamer can set it, but the thing is, if you have a deal with Twitch, if you have a contract with Twitch, you have to follow certain guidelines. You are the chosen one. There we go. There are no more ads, dude. No more ads. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, buddy. Welcome, man. Make sure you join Discord. Come join our community, man. Come join our community in Discord. And come check out our socials to follow the stream with. Yeah. Dude, 100%. Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. No, I totally get that, man. And there are a lot of people like that. And here, let me just pause the music for a second. Okay, so yeah, so I understand why people are moving off of Twitch, right? I think the only thing that bothers me personally, is I have to share the site with hot tub streams. I don't understand when it became a thing where we're not gaming anymore. I just don't get it. It made me feel like a little bit less about myself. I just don't understand why they're doing that. Like, it, as a streamer that is all about the content, I want you guys to watch the content, have a good time with the content, and chill with me, and have a good time with me. As someone who, I don't view Twitch. I'm not a Twitch viewer. I'm a streamer, right? Like, I actually don't watch Twitch. I've said this time and time again, I don't have the time to watch Twitch, man. I consume my content through YouTube, or like through YouTubers, or TV shows. And yeah, dude, I know, yeah. It is disgusting. Dude, I'm 100% in with you there. Yes. Yeah. Exactly, dude. That's exactly my point. And I've talked about this with people, and they're like, and they're so against me, dude. They're so against me. And they chalk it up to like women's rights and stuff, and they start fucking putting all this shit on me. But it's not that. Like, I just think about it though. Like, think about, put yourself in my shoes. Put yourself in my shoes. I got into this to stream games. Right. Put yourself in my shoes. I got into this to stream games and to share, exactly, and to share my love for games with people, and to have people watch and chill about games. And when I back out and I see people, other people that are on my site, like me, but they're just in a fucking hot tub showing their tits and shit, and sucking off they're sucking off mics and like stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, when I see that kind of shit, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, no, it made me laugh, first of all. Like, it first made me laugh, and I was like, what is this shit here? Like, why is this here? This doesn't make any sense. And then, yeah, it's just, they just became like a fucking campsite or something. It's so weird. I don't get it. And I'm still gonna have my channel, like, on Twitch, like, because everything's here, and if I moved over, it would not be a good move for me. It's just right now, like, it's in the future, sure. In the future, when we get much bigger, 100% there. It's just not a good move for me now. Like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna be working on YouTube videos and stuff like that. And the girl I'm seeing is she knows her way around TikTok, so I'll have her teach me some stuff. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and they're going in the opposite direction. They're going in the more family-friendly direction, and dude, I don't care. Like, I'm all for that. I'm all good for free speech and stuff, and letting us swear and stuff like that. And that's kind of nice. Like, I like that because that's just how we talk. But when it gets to a place where it's like, dude, there's been times I've checked out people's streams, and they're fucking smoking crack, dude. They're like smoking crack on camera. What the fuck is going on? And I'm not a negative person. Look at me right now. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? These guys are smoking, like, they're smoking crack. The fuck is this? What the fuck is happening? I don't know. So, I understand. So, yeah, I know that for sure. So now I understand why in Diablo Immortal, why everyone was so fucking toxic towards me. Because the fucking Immortal streamers were probably like the most toxic fucking people. I bet you any money. I didn't check any of them out, but I bet you any money, those streamers are fucking, they're all about like that kind kind of lifestyle, and it's just, it's crazy.
That spanner isn't ready yet.
I just have my own little, like this. We're forming our own little positive community, and like, we have a community, and we're gonna keep growing, and we're gonna keep it on. Because I've been partnered 6 years ago, because I played esports, right? And I got grandfathered into a lot of things, and they really helped me out. They throw me a lot of money. They really help me out. Twitch is really there for me. They've never burned me. They've always been there for me. Honestly, like as a person to person, like an employee to employee thing, they're amazing. Like this is how you have to look at it. It's just like Blizzard. Blizzard has become a terrible company. The people within Blizzard are getting better and better and better. Do you know what I mean? Like, the people within Twitch are actually fucking solid people. But their brand has been so tarnished because of something someone at the top level has done. And choices that someone at the top level has done, right? Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and no, we're actually focusing on that. If you're part of the Discord, I've made plenty of announcements. We're actually moving into actually making YouTube videos now, and I'm going to be streaming still. Like, in my off days, I'm going to be making YouTube videos. Yeah, it's not slave away, so I actually like this. I love this, dude. I love chilling. I honestly love it. I love it. I love streaming.
Is it ready yet?
Like, I have such a good fucking time. I love this shit. Like, I don't know. I really enjoy what I do. And that plays a part in me just wanting to keep going, right? I love it. I would rather be live than make videos. And I fucking love making videos, dude. I love making videos. It's just the constant connection with people. Gotcha. I'm just saying, the constant connection that you have with people when you stream. Yeah. Pretty sure Athlon's like a fucking YouTube spy. He's like a YouTube employee. No, I'm with you, man. Like, I get it. I totally get it, man. And, but like, just in my own personal case, Twitch has never done anything bad to me, like, personally. They've always really got my back when I needed it. Always. Right. But being like an actual like employee in the space, dealing with the managers, like account managers and stuff like that, at Twitch, like the people within, the people are actually really awesome, man. Like, they're really cool people, and I'll say it again, like, there's people at the top that are doing stupid fucking shit and ruining it for everybody, man. And if you look at any industry, that happens everywhere. The fucking top 1%, man, always ruins it for fucking everybody. And that's exactly what's happening to Twitch right now. There's somebody or a few people on Twitch, board of directors or something, I don't even know, that are just ruining it for people. And it sucks. And there's nothing you can do about it because they own it. So isn't Destiny like super toxic? like absolutely like a terrible person? I don't know. I'm just asking. Like, wasn't he like a terrible person? No? Okay. So that's just what I heard. I heard he was just like really, really terrible. I don't know. Because someone has said to me before that JonTron is a terrible person. I'm like, okay. Okay. I'm sure JonTron is a terrible person. Yeah. I'm sure. Like, dude, JonTron seems like the most fucking one of the most wholesome people I've ever seen. He just seems like a really cool guy. Just because he said something once or whatever, like people just go all in on him and shit, and it's not fair to people like that. Oh my god, look at this. I haven't been using this since 58. Sunraiser. It's an epic. What am I doing? Biological men and women. But like, what does that mean? Like, what? What does he mean by that? No, okay. So, Athlon, I've seen all of his views. I don't agree with any of them. I don't agree with any of his views either. But his content is fucking hilarious, dude. Like, his content is actually fucking hilarious. And, like, I'm not gonna, like, ruin this guy's life over that. You know what I mean? Biological men and women are different. Yeah, they are. But like, what does he mean? Of course they're different. They have different genitals. Does that make sense? You have a penis and a vagina. Confused. I mean, some people are probably born with without or with both, right? I'm sure. Well, yeah, I'm sure there's people that are born with other things, right? There's got to be. Like, I'm sure people. Like, I've never met one, but like I'm sure there's people out there born with like defects and stuff like that. Or, I mean, like, it's only called a defect because it's outside the norm, right? People just use words and they use it to spread hate. And humans are just fucking stupid. And whenever stupid humans get a chance to be stupid and spread hate, they do it. They just do it. I'm not about positivity. Still recharging. Like, that's why here, man, you don't talk about. We don't allow any religion here. We don't allow, like, religion talks or politics talks, even on Discord. I don't want any of that ever to. I don't want any politics. I don't want any religion ever brought up here or my Discord, because like, shit just goes haywire. It's a positive place for people to hang out and talk about games. It's not a place to talk about that kind of stuff, right? I got you. I get what you're saying. Me and my moderators have been talking the past couple weeks, and we actually used to make YouTube content, like, for fun, and that's where I started, and I fucking love making YouTube content, and I have some people that are lending me Adobe Premiere. I used to use Sony Vegas to do all my editing, but now they're lending me Adobe Premiere, so I have to get familiar with that a little bit before I start. Because apparently that's the go-to now instead of Sony Vegas. So it'll be a learning curve for me, but once I get that learning curve done, I'm good. Thanks, Snu. I appreciate it, man. Thanks. What's up, chickens? No, we're just talking about just the way things go, I guess. Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. It's just things aren't that easy. Like they're just not as easy as it's like. It's not that easy to transfer everybody over. Like, I'm gonna lose a lot, dude. To transfer over, I'm gonna lose a lot. So the smartest move for me, personally, where I'm at right now, is to start creating YouTube content. And, yeah. Exactly, yeah. So, yes, that's actually a thing I'm looking into as well. To start creating YouTube content and having videos. So the videos are going to be... I have so many ideas, and they're really good ideas. I can't wait to work on them. And, yeah, and this new girl I'm seeing, man, is super into that shit, too. And she's like a Dark Souls player and stuff, and, like... If I can get her down with, like, helping me make some content, oh my god, that would be amazing, dude. Because I need help. That's really what it comes down to. I don't have, like, fucking 20 hands. My mods will tell you this, like, the past couple days, I have been so overwhelmed with everything going on that I started having them actually, like, take over a couple things from me, because I can't do most of this shit anymore. There's just so much going on, and because we're growing, right? And as we grow, it becomes more and more. And no, it would be perfect to just have another person to help. Oh shit, eh? Dude, I have so many ideas. I am like a fucking idea wizard, man. Like, I go to sleep with like 10 different video ideas a day. Like funny fucking ideas, great ideas. The way I actually got into video editing, when I first started, the way I got into video editing was my ideas, and seeing them come to life was crazy. And the ones that actually panned out to be good ended up being good. I made a couple really badass montages, like really badass montages. It started out trying to be funny, and then it turned into like making actual like good content. I was trying to be funny all the time, but it started being like very random, and then it kept losing the randomness and slowly became actually good content to watch, and with funny parts. Like, it had funny parts, but like it was like good content to, if you're into that kind of shit, like watching really like sick FPS kind of things, like a really well edited video, like a montage kind of thing. Yo, I'll show you guys a video. Hold up. I'll bring up my YouTube channel and show you what I made years ago. 8 years ago? I started on YouTube, man. I started making YouTube videos, and like that's what I wanted to do. And I started by streaming on YouTube, And I was doing YouTube streams, and someone said, you should check out Twitch. And I was like, what's Twitch? Like, I had no idea. It was like, it was years ago. And so I checked it out, and that's how I got on Twitch. And someone found me playing Overwatch, and challenged me to a 1v1 fight. And it turned out to be a pro and a streamer. And I kicked his fucking ass live on stream, and I got a lot of views, and like, that's just how I blew up. And then, yeah, it just went from there. Because I was just like really good at playing Tracer, and people were like talking about me, and they're like, you should try facing this guy, this kid. Because I used to play a lot of Unreal Tournament and Quake and shit, and playing Tracer was just like playing Quake. It was... I should make like a... Honestly, you know what I should do one of these days? A passion project of mine would be making a documentary of like what I went through for esports. To show people what esports is actually about. To show them like the realistic side of esports. No, like it's positive. It's not negative. It's not negative. But like people hype it up a little bit too much. Like they're realistic numbers. Like they're very realistic numbers to start off. And it's not like, I don't know. I feel like I want to make like a realistic documentary on like what I went through and what my team went through, and I can interview them and have them on camera and shit. Maybe that'll be way in the future, because there's a guy who's on my team who makes his living by editing videos now. He straight up just edits YouTube videos, and our manager straight up makes YouTube videos, I think, now, and streams quite a bit, I think. But like we all just started getting into like content creation. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, number 1. That's how they found me. I was ranked 1, and they didn't know who the fuck this kid was. It was like an alpha, and they didn't know who the fuck this kid was. And you know Surefor? Do you know who Surefor is? Yeah, that's the guy who's like caught cheating with Titanfall and stuff. But yeah, no, yeah. And so I got to do all these cool things, and that's how I got in. And then that boosted and that boosted my numbers, and so I started streaming. And when I started streaming and people started knowing my name, there was a team that was getting put together, and they actually hit up my stream, and that's how I got recruited into a team. They actually all came into my stream, like 5 guys at the same time, and they were. I still talk to them to this day. They're some of my closest friends, man. One guy's in Japan, and like they're all doing their own shit now. Like no one's doing esports anymore. I think one guy's still trying to do Twitch and esports. One guy, he's such a. His name's AZ. You'll see him here time and time again. He's so cool. But he's the one who has a job for editing. He edits videos and stuff like that for his actual job. But I was like the oldest guy in the group, and like, no, it was such a nice, fun experience. It was just watching it as like a documentary. It's really cool, and like you could show boomers it and be like, no, like this is an actual thing that happens, kind of thing. Like this is real, like, and you get paid, you get signed contracts, you get paid salaries, like this is real. There's a lot of boomers and shit that just don't understand. And I got in on the ground floor because of my stream. And part of the signing, the signing bonus, guess what the signing bonus was? A partnership with Twitch. It was an added bonus. That's how I got my partnership. So if you're playing esports for a team, they have connections to just get you partnerships. So I got an esports partnership basically, and that's how I got my start. Awesome, dude. Thank you so much for the follow. And now that you're subbed and you're in Discord, go to connections when you get time and connect your Twitch and your Discord account, and you'll unlock a bunch of really cool things. What was the salary? It was 12,000, and it was room and board. 12,000, super low, but think about it. Room and board. So you live... Yes, it's so low, but you also keep prize winnings. I think it was, you get 80% of prize winnings. So you keep 80% of prize winnings. You go to, there was like 4, 5, or 6 LAN tournaments with big prizes, like 100K, 200K. Like, big prizes. Like, they're... If you win, you're taking home money. You're basically fucking like trying to become the best. Like the whole idea is you guys are fucking trying to be the best, right? And if you win, you take home the prize winnings, right? And so they were starting with 12K, and they were paying room and board. So it was a whole thing where they're gonna set us up in like buildings and shit. Or a house, a team house. California. This is what they were talking about. I gave it all up for it was a year to start. It was a year contract to start. But they planned to go 3 years. And I turned it down because of an ex-girlfriend who turned out to be the worst person in the world for me. Just terrible story. I was with her for like 7 years or so, and just... But you learn, man. I gave up my dream to be with this person, and yeah, just didn't go very well. It was great for a while, and then yeah, you know. But hey Zombie, what's up, dude? Yo, you got that Prime, buddy? You got that Prime? Do you have the Prime? I'm only bugging you because you have the Prime next to your name. Do you have you used the Prime yet? Oh, please tell me you haven't used that Prime. Prime stake me, baby. How's it going, Zombie? What's up, man? Nice to see you, man. I love seeing you hop in. You're always here, man. I love you, man. No, and then I got in. What's it called? Oh wow. So nothing kicked in, but you definitely just subbed, and I don't see it yet. But oh my god, dude, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for subbing. I'm reading Do One Better, and oh wow, not a Prime sub. Wow, dude, 9 months. Oh my god, thank you so much, man.
Bring balance to the force.
Thank you so much.
Not leave it a
Truly hard seltzer, now made with real fruit juice. It's real refreshing, because real fruit juice tastes better. Truly.
A dream is the spark of greatness, but it's nothing without drive. Introducing the all-new Honda HR-V. Honda, the power of dreams.